Let me now touch upon my understanding of Operation Sindoor, and I'll be very brief because it's all known to you all. And I'll come out with a few lessons that are important as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. So, of course, Operation Sindoor, the defining thing was that leadership, the strategic messaging by leadership was unambiguous. You cross our red lines and there would be action. There would be punitive action if required. There is no scope of absorbing the pain the way we did a few years ago. So that is one important message that stands out loud and clear. Second, as far as Operation Sindoor was concerned, the planning and selection of targets was based on a lot of data that was collected, using technology and, I would say, human intelligence. So a total of 21 targets were actually sort of identified, out of which 9 targets we thought would be prudent to engage. When we looked at those 9 targets, and it was not that the 9 targets that we decided upon was a decision which did not change. Till the last day, the targets, there was eye on the targets that were there, and we kept monitoring the locations. It was only on the final day or the final hour that the decision was taken that these 9 targets would be engaged. A considered decision was taken. It will be a tri-services approach to send the right message that we indeed are an integrated force. So, Army, Navy, Air Force all played their part as far as targeting was concerned. We saw various, or we are seeing various conflicts playing out. So an important consideration was that we should always be on top of the escalation ladder. When we reach a political military objective, we should try and put a stop to it. So a lot of naysayers say, why did we stop now? So war is easy to initiate, but it's very difficult to control. So I would say that was a very masterly stroke that was played to stop the war at an appropriate time. And this time, when the target engagement started, how we controlled the escalation, it was only the terrorist targets that were engaged in the first phase and information warfare. A message was sent that we have only engaged your militant targets, the terrorist targets. We would like to put an end to it. However, Pakistani side decided that no, they wanted to, sort of come equal. They engaged our military targets. So in step 2 of the escalation, a very strong message was sent by engaging their military targets in a manner that on 10th of May, there was a message from the military operations, Pakistan, that they would want a ceasefire. Of course, we completed our mission to ensure that we end the conflict on top of the escalation ladder. And thereafter, of course, it is all about information warfare, how the narrative shape out. That's another domain that could be discussed. And the reason why this particular thing happened, because there was a punch that was ready, and they realized that that hidden punch, in case that comes through, Pakistan would be in a very, very bad condition. So that was the reason why they asked for a ceasefire. Of course, another important thing during Op Sindoor was air defense and how it panned out. So it is good, bad. We could do a lot. Mr. Ashok did talk about it, that some of our indigenous systems performed well. Some did not perform very well too. So it's of course a cat and mouse game, as I was mentioning outside. We need to be at it. This time, thankfully, our population centers were not quite addressed. In the next round, we have to be prepared for that. And for that, more and more air defense, more and more counter rocket, artillery, drone sort of a system has to be prepared, for which we have to move very, very fast. So few lessons that I thought I must flag as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. Firstly, one border, two adversaries. So we saw Pakistan one side, but adversaries were two, and if I would say actually four or three actually. So Pakistan was the front face. We had China providing all possible support, and it's no surprise because if you were to look at statistics, in the last 5 years, 81% of the military hardware that Pakistan is getting is all Chinese, 81% of that. So it's no surprise. And China, of course, the good old dictum, killed by a borrowed knife, 36 stratagems that China talks about, killed by a borrowed knife. So he would rather use the neighbor to cause pain than getting involved in the mud slinging match on the northern border. So that is what he's seen. And another thing that China perhaps has seen is that he's able to test his weapons against, say, various other weapon systems that are there. It's like a live lab which is available to. So it's a good, that is what is something we have to be very, very cognizant about. Again, Turkey also played a very important role in providing the type of support that was there. Bayraktar, of course, he's been giving from before. We saw numerous other drones also coming in, landing in the face of war, during the war, along with trained sort of individuals who were there. The next important lesson is the importance of C4 ISR and civil military fusion. There is a lot to be done as far as this domain is concerned. When the DGMO level talks were going on, Pakistan actually was mentioning that we know that your such and such important sort of vector is primed and it is ready for action. I would request you to perhaps, pull it back. So he was getting live inputs as far as from China. So that is one place we really need to move fast and take appropriate action. I talked about electronic warfare, and need for robust air defense system is something, again, our population centers also need to be protected. Of course, as far as the other, we do not have the luxury like, we would have been seeing the way Israel, they have the Iron Dome and a number of other air defense features that they have. We do not have a luxury because our country is vast. So, and such things cost a lot of money. So we need to again look at innovative solutions. Another lesson I think from Operation Sindoor was need for a secure supply chain. So we found, Mr. Ashok again talked about that the pain because an equipment was not inducted on time. He was looking at it from the industry point of view, but I was looking at it from a military perspective, that an equipment which was supposed to get in by, say, January or last October, November, was not available to us. And in the face, and when on 22nd of the previous month, that is April, when all this happened, and when I actually addressed, I don't know, some of you may be there, when I addressed the drone manufacturers, that how many of you can, provide the equipment that you're supposed to in the stipulated time. A lot of hands went up, but when again I called them after 1 week, nothing came by. The reason is because our supply chains. We are still dependent on a lot of things from outside. Had all those equipment been made available, the story may have been a little different, right? So it is both sides. We need to look at that. Another important lesson is indigenization of critical technologies. We need to really indigenize. We've been giving a list that what are the critical technologies that need to indigenize. I'll just talk about it a little later, very briefly. And cyber hardening is something. So these were the important lessons that I thought emerged from Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor is I would say a very, very short sort of a skirmish which was there. So we need to just take it as far as these lessons are concerned in that light. It is not a full war the way it may sort of emerge. So a few recommendations that I have, and I'll wind up with that for the industry. We have to invest in research and development. We've been talking about it. Our private industries, and I sort of can be corrected, spend less than 1% on most of it is being spent by the government. So it is 60% I think the government spends and 40% is what the private industry spends. That is according to some statistics. So I take it as far as that is concerned. But the bottom line is we need to invest in R&D. R&D by nature, you will have failures and you will have successes. So we need to invest in R&D, invest in component level R&D. There are so many components that we still bank upon getting from outside. So seeker technology, engines, we are really grappling with problems as far as this is concerned. Ramjet, etc. The list is long. Again, laser, high power microwave. We need to really invest in R&D and take it forward. Atmanirbharta is not an option. We have to be absolute. Locus of control has to be inside. We have to have all the critical technologies which should be available to us. Nobody should hold us hostage as far as critical technology and critical supply is concerned. The third issue is profit is important, very, very important, but please do not compromise on the quality and timely delivery. I did talk about the pain that we all felt because the deliveries were not on time. Must stick to timelines. I would also talk about 4 C's. Cooperate, collaborate, compete, but please do not complain. So what we find very frequently that if something is not coming our way, we would say that there is a Chinese component in product X and everything gets stalled. Mr. Ashok talked about some file lying in somebody's table for whatever time, he said 16 weeks or whatever. Perhaps the reasons are so many. We are a democracy, and if such complaints come that perhaps the things are not sort of absolutely clean, there is no way but to sort of investigate. So these are challenges that we all have to work through as a team, and that's why I said when I started off, it is we who have to be ready to fight the war. It is not the soldiers only who can win a war. It is soldier and the industry going together. The next recommendation is that has the time come? It's a question that I'm asking. Has the time come to sort of have a concept of national champions? Now, I would not go that far to have a national champion, but at least to restrict some of you looking at developing capabilities and gaining expertise in a field, rather than everybody going for everything. So now drone is the new thing in town. So everybody wants to get into drone. Is that a good way? Everybody wants to get into anything which is there. So what will happen? Today there is a lot of requirement of drones. So everybody is going to get into that. Perhaps 2, 3, 4 years down the line, again, what was mentioned that there is a glut in the market. Now what do the industries do? How do you keep it running? So it may be a good idea to develop a niche, less people, cooperate, and thereafter take it forward. Testing is another thing that that's another recommendation that I have, that we do not have good testing facilities as far as our Indian ecosystem is concerned. So I would request that together, the services and the military needs to take it forward. Now EW is something we are looking at. So do we have a EW range where actually the drone manufacturers can go and test it out? So what we have done, we've thrown it open to the industry that, okay, we will provide you assistance, and I'm going to come out with some sort of a policy framework which would be available to the industry, that such and such, after a couple of months, we will have 3 or 4 days when some sort of EW environment will be available to you all. So testing is something that we need to look at. We need to have standards so that the procurement cycles can shrink. We talked about procurement cycles, how they can shrink. A lot of time is taken in testing, validating. In case I get an equipment which is ready to be inducted, why should I bother to test? Why should I bother and waste time to going to high altitude or going through various EMI tests, various tests that are required? So if you can give me a product which is well tested, which we can utilize immediately, why go through all the pains of quality control, which I'm sure will get addressed during the next part. My final recommendation, of course, is about drones, which I talked about. There is a lot of scope, civil-military fusion, and we've been following the campaigns that are going on, that how in the face of the enemy, there is modification which is going on. So drone provides us this sort of because it is a dual-use technology, it's being used in a lot of walks of life. So this is something where we can actually develop an ecosystem. And unfortunately, again, I found when I talked about this, how do we get through the Chinese sort of trap? I found that a lot of things are available cheaply. So a shortcut is taken by getting parts or the drone parts from outside. So we need to develop this. We've been in consultation with the Ministry of Defense and others to come up with a framework, and I'm sure by September, October, we should be out with a drone framework wherein we are looking at how to incentivize, firstly, all the production which is there, how to get through the vulnerabilities, how to facilitate testing would be the basic theme of this particular. So there are the requirement of drones for the Indian Armed Forces is massive. So I would request that special emphasis be played on that. And towards that end, my compliments to FICCI, because I think the basic theme here is this, and we're going to have a lot of discussion on that. So ma'am, my compliments to you all for organizing this particular event. My compliments for such a wonderful, the three of you really set the stage. There's nothing much for me to articulate thereafter. You touched upon all the correct things, and I'm sure the discussions in the afternoon today are going to come up with some very, very viable solutions. I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much for your patience, and good luck to you all.